What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we are officially at the last summit here until the big update in Motorfest. And you know what? It's kind of insane to think about. For this week, though, we actually have the KRC Japan Nissan 240 SX. This car, I do admit, actually looks pretty dang incredible. I love the kit on this car. You're also going to get yourself the Petrol Nitro, which is, of course, going to be an epic Nitro as a gold reward, which is kind of interesting looking back at the recent summit rewards here. Kind of makes you think about it a little bit. But going back to this though, you also get yourself $200,000 and 100,000 XP. When looking at the summit though, guys, it is going to be a pretty fun summit for the most part. I actually did enjoy this one, even though it's going to be primarily based on Tier 2 and Tier 1 races. You're also then going to have a low altitude, a speed trap, and a slalom. Now, similar to the old summit, as I did mention in that video, I am not using pro settings on any of the vehicles. And what's funny though is I've actually been having a great time in the summit not actually using pro settings on them. I do understand they are definitely going to make you faster in some places, but I was also kind of looking at something to mix up and actually spice the summits up a bit, and I do feel like not having pro settings on certain vehicles is actually still pretty decent. Now, when looking at these skills though, the first one is indeed going to be a slalom. For this, you are going to have to use a power boat because these are basically the only thing you can run on the water unless we somehow actually got the hovercrafts back, which I don't see happening. But I would actually recommend trying out the WR1. I would say this powerboat is most likely one of the best ones. Yeah, you could use something like the Vector, like the Blade Runner, even the 1414 Demon, but I do feel like the WR1 is going to be a great overall powerboat. And similar to the old challenges and stuff like that, well, most of the lovely skills like the low altitude here, we also have the buoy smashing and sometimes the slaloms to where the scores are going to be basically capped out. So I would actually recommend guys picking basically any plane of your choice here. Like, yes, some of the planes might be faster, like the Northern American P-51 Mustang is easily going to be faster than something like the Slick aircraft. Funnily enough, though, the maxed out score is still going to be 129,000 points, so you could basically run anything that you actually want to. On this, spawn in, hit the objective, hit the water, and basically go as fast as you can and close as you can to the water until the timer runs out. That's basically it. Pretty dang simple, right? But besides all of that, though, the first event here is going to be a Street Tier 1, and it's, of course, vehicle owned. For this, you're actually going to have to use the S14 that is indeed the Platinum reward. I have to admit, this car is actually pretty dang fun to use it. I really do love the body kit on it. It handles really well. And you know, it's actually going to be decently quick. The only thing with this car is do keep in mind this thing is of course going to be a Street Tier 1 vehicle, so well, it is probably not going to be the fastest thing out there. I would probably guess around 190 miles an hour for it. Probably going to be fairly average for most Tier 1 vehicles. I also probably could have went back into this one, but I was like, you know what, probably not worth doing. I'll take the 2 minutes and 33 seconds. The next event though is going to be the Sky is the Limit. You're going to have to use a Street Tier 2 vehicle and it's going to say car. So you could basically pick, well, a car, which is a pretty bold statement. I would probably say most of the time the F40, the lovely Taycan, the 911 GT, the lovely Lamborghini Huracan are probably going to be some of the best out there. I did want to run something different though, the Porsche 911 Carrera 4S Timeless Edition. I also removed all my pro settings on this vehicle and tested it out. You know what? It's actually pretty dang good, man. Like, this car handles great. The acceleration on the 911 Carrera 4S is so dang addicting. Legit, not only accelerating off the line, but you can find yourself being in a higher gear coming out of the said corners and also going into them. Like, the 911's pretty dang good. I wouldn't say it's going to be the best Street Tier 2 vehicle out there, but it can easily compete with something like the Ferrari F40 without a doubt in my mind. The next one is going to be a Street Tier 2 race with the lovely High Octane Edition. Now, this event, I would say, for a lot of players is going to be kind of odd because, well, it is going to be one of the Hoonigan races. So you are going to see some jumps and stuff like that, some very tight corners in it, and most likely the kind of race you would never see a Street Tier 2 vehicle in. A few tips on this one, guys. Do not be afraid to use your e-brake around the corners. It does help a lot. The next thing though is in the beginning of the race you'll find yourself some jumps. Now I did actually take the first one that's going to bring you into the first tight corner, but after that though legitimately avoid every single jump in the first area. Once you actually get to the boat you can hit those jumps because you kind of have to. Can't float on water in the Nissan, that is not going to work. But one thing I did notice though is avoiding the 2 or 3 jumps in the first part of this event is going to make you that much quicker. Sometimes hitting the jumps is actually going to slow you down a bit because you obviously have to jump it. Depending on what's going to be after, which sometimes can be a tight corner, you can actually over jump that said turn, then boom, you're going to have to most likely restart the entire event. Now, I also have to admit something here, though. The next two events, I did end up picking cars that you would most likely not even want to see in them. The first one here is going to be a Tier 1 vehicle that you have to use a Nissan in it. You're probably going to notice looking at the platform here that, well, you'll probably be like, okay, I can kind of see what everyone is running, and that is going to be the 240SX. This car is so dang good. I looked at that and I went, you know what, bro? What can I use that is not as good? Makes a lot of sense, right? Why not pick a vehicle that is not going to be that great? I did end up picking the Nissan 300ZX. Surprisingly enough, though, it was actually not bad, bro. Like, sure, you're not going to be beating the SX, but as you guys can see, currently recording this video at around, let me check my phone, around an hour and 40 minutes after the summit did actually come out. I am still in 38th place right now, which is definitely going to change, but running something like the Nissan 300ZX, this car was still able to do it. And I have to admit though, the best part about it is the fact that I do know for a fact if I did end up jumping back into this event and running something like the Nissan 240SX, I would easily beat my time on it. But where's the fun in that if you can't actually do the events in something that is not meta? I really do find the summits a lot more fun that way. Speaking of that, the R34 here is once again, guys, the lovely Haru edition. You guys can see right now when recording this that I ran the regular GTR in this event, and you'll probably notice that, yeah, basically nobody is using it. And that is going to be for good reasoning because the Haru is way better. I'm even 132 place right now, which I do know for a fact I will go definitely higher. And I also know if I jumped into the Haru, I would easily get a higher score. I really do find it kind of odd in this game how something like the addition of this vehicle is going to be so much better than the base one. Like, I do understand that car is going to be special, whatever you want to call it, but then again though, why is the regular GTR so dang terrible? Really does make you wonder, but at the same time, the entire meta thing is definitely a problem in Motorfest. The last event, though, is going to be with the lovely Fairlady Z. Now, this event is fairly short. It's actually going to be from the 911 playlist, so it is actually going to be 2 laps on it. And I would actually say with no pro settings, the Fairlady is pretty dang good. I would actually say right now you can easily run this car with no pro settings on it and still get a pretty decent score. Now, one thing I can actually recommend with this event is the biggest thing about it is 100% the racing lines. Once you guys do get that down, you're definitely going to be much faster in this event. Even with something like the Fairlady being a Tier 1 vehicle, you can fly around the corners pretty dang quick. Overall, though, guys, I would say many players are most likely going to run this summit and go after the newly lovely S14. This thing looks pretty dang sweet. Can't wait to actually drive it and check it out after this, and I really would say a lot of players are probably going to want it, which is, of course, going to mean this summit is probably going to be pretty dang intense. But if you have any questions at all, let me know in the comments below. Let's jump right into this.